Welcome everyone to Zone Training. During this session, we will cover how to create a commission log in Zone. Once logged in, you'll need to start the process within SkySlope, since that's where the transaction lives, along with all of the required broker documents. As a compliance user, you should have access to review files, access any transactions within your office, and also close transactions. In this case, I have two closings I'm going to go ahead and work on. So I'm going to go to Manage Transactions. And you'll notice that there's a search field where you can go ahead and search for the transaction. In this case, I have the two transactions here readily available for me. So I'm going to go ahead and start on 456 Main Street. At this point, I've received the closing package along with the closing statement, checks, any other corresponding documents that are required. You'll notice that as an admin, you have access to all of the different fields that the agent or transaction coordinator entered when they first created the transaction. You do have access to override the information if you see that it is inaccurate. You can go through the different tabs starting with the contacts to view seller, buyer, title, escrow, home warranty, and lender information. The tab that is important to reference prior to closing a transaction is the commission tab. This is the information that will be pulled into the Zone COM log when you close the transaction and pull it into the system. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a defaulted $350,000 sale price with a 3% commission. You'll notice that there are a number of other fields that are available here. There is only the general information is pulled into Zone, such as the sale price, the commission amount, along with the dollar amount. Now the TC information here, this can be entered and will reflect, but there is no drop down, which is different than what is currently in MyRog. So please note that, for version 1, we're going to have to keep a close eye on files that are TC files. You also have access to the checklist, where you can do a final audit of the transaction, the documents section, the conversation log, tasks, and then property. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the transaction tab. I've updated the commission information, verified that that's accurate, and I've also completed a final review of the file. And then I'm now going to go ahead and close the file out by selecting Escrow Now Closed. And I'm going to update the closing date to reflect the settlement statement. I'm going to make that the 17th. Now you'll notice that there is an archive file button. If the transaction is complete and all documents have been uploaded to the system, you want to make sure that you change the status of the transaction to archived. So SkySlope's equivalent of MyRog's closed status is archived. Now, if the transaction is missing documents, you want to simply select OK, and that will change the transaction to closed status, which is the equivalent of MyRog's closed pending status. There's more information that we are gathering on a how-to guide that will be available very soon in the Zone Resource Center. But for now, if you can just keep that in mind, there's information located in the FAQ as well. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just mark this as closed. Let's pretend the agent forgot to upload a couple documents, so I'm just going to go ahead and select OK. And you'll notice that that transaction now has been removed from this area. Now, moving on to my second closing, I'm going to select 9872 Garden Grove Boulevard and go through the same process. I'll go ahead and verify that the contact information is correct. The commission amount, I'm going to go ahead and update this to 2.25, which will update the gross commission on the right-hand side. I'll then complete a final review and go back to the transaction area and select escrow now closed. I'll go ahead and update that close date per the settlement statement. And in this case, let's go ahead and pretend that the file is complete. So I'm going to change it to archived status and select OK. Enter a note and submit. Now, as far as SkySlope goes, you'll need to go ahead and close out all of the transactions that you currently have closing packages for. You'll go through that process within SkySlope, and once complete, you'll go back to the Zone homepage and access the CommLog. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Zone homepage, and you should have a tab already open that will give you access. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and select Compliance and Create Batch. You'll notice that there are different drop downs available. This will only apply if you have access to multiple offices. If you don't currently have access to multiple offices, the system will default to your primary office. There are also icons over on the right-hand side where you can go back, create a payment batch, or refresh the transaction page. So in order to create a new CommLog, you'll need to refresh the transactions. And what this will do is pull in any new transactions that were recently closed since the last time you created a CommLog. It looks like someone else is also closing out some transactions in Anaheim today. But you'll notice that my 456 Main Street and 9872 Garden Grove Boulevard are now accessible. So I'm going to go ahead and select those two transactions and go up to the plus sign to create a new payment batch. Once the CommLog is created, you'll need to go over and edit details by selecting the icon to the left of the agent's name. Agent info is available on the left-hand side, beginning with the agent's name on license if that's different, agent paid to if that applies, the property address, sales price, and the transaction type. There's also an area to upload a copy of the closing package, and program details will show up on the right-hand side. These programs pull in from the user's account. Normally you would see garnishments, mentee, whether an agent has a commission advance out, which is a new program in Zone. Those are currently not displaying over on the right-hand side. But they were last week, so I know maybe someone in IT is currently updating something, but we'll make sure to get those back in there. You'll also, at the very bottom, below programs, you will see if an agent owes dues in a red box. Something that has changed within Zone is that agents will not be able to apply payments for past dues through a commission. Compliance will receive an alert on this transaction detail page, but there will be no option under Add Item to apply the past dues. Now moving on to the gross commission. You'll notice that the gross commission amount has been transferred over from SkySlope along with the sales price. These two items are what help calculate and balance your file. Transaction fees and dock storage fee, if that applies, will automatically calculate, again based off of the sales price or the transaction type, depending on your office and your requirements. And then there is the agent commission. In this case, the system automatically calculated the net amount that the agent received. If this amount needs to be offset for whatever reason, maybe the agent owes someone a referral fee, maybe this could possibly be a TC transaction, we would go ahead and go to Edit and offset that net amount that they've received. This is also where you can determine whether a check was paid from title. And if necessary, you can also add another line item. You'll notice that the item types are very similar to what you're already used to. There might be a few new categories that are pretty self-explanatory, but we are working on a detailed how-to guide that will explain all of these in detail. Now that we're balanced, you'll notice that we're zeroed out at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and go back and select the second transaction to work on. For this transaction, I'm going to include a transaction coordination fee and also mark the agent's commission as pay from title. In order to do that, I'm going to edit the line item. And beginning at the top, I'm going to offset the agent's commission amount by $250, which is the amount of the transaction coordination fee. So that's their new net amount. And then select the Pay from Title button and save. You'll notice that we have a balance of $250. From there, I will select Add Line Item. And from Item Type, I'll select Transaction Coordinator Commission. And type in the full amount. Now, if you have a specific split within your office between your transaction coordinator and the office, that will need to be split up. And I'll go ahead and add. And you'll notice that the fourth line item has now been updated. Please note that we are in the staging site, so it looks like the payee information just is defaulting to Realty One Group, but that information will pull in from the user's profile. Similar to the transaction coordinator commission, we will be able to select anyone with a TC permission within the system, and that information should show up under payee as well. Now that we've finished, I'm going to go ahead and upload a copy of the title check. And you see that we receive a green confirmation in the upper right hand corner. In order to go ahead and submit this batch for manager approval, I'm going to select back. And you'll notice the icons available in the upper right hand corner. You can go back, add a transaction, submit a pass-through, very similar to the process in MyRog, approve and submit to manager, or empty and remove, which will start the process all over. I wanted to quickly mention that IT is currently working on a summary page, similar to the summary page that most of our branches use to confirm their daily deposit amounts. That is something that we have asked them to make available beginning early next week, as it's the only way that compliance can verify how much needs to be deposited without going through each individual transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and now approve and submit for manager approval. The system will ask for confirmation. Managers will go through a very similar process than what they are currently used to. They'll need to click on the blue icon on the left-hand side of the batch number. And a series of icons will appear in the upper right-hand corner. They can go back, approve and submit to accounting, reject the batch, or empty and remove. We'll go ahead and approve and submit to accounting. Again, the system will ask for confirmation. And because I don't have accounting privileges, I am not able to view or edit the batch once the manager has approved it to accounting review. But you'll notice that under the compliance area, there is a batch summary option. And this batch summary option is going to work similar to a search feature for compliance to be able to search by batch number, by date, or by any transactions within any of the offices that they have access to. This is currently in development. We are testing this feature, but know that you will be able to view transactions and specifically comm logs that are submitted by compliance. IT is working on a number of comm log enhancements. This is one of the features that we asked them for, in addition to quite a few wish list items as well. We welcome any feedback that you may have, and we hope that you enjoy the system. Thank you.